Are you tired of getting mediocre responses from ChatGPT? And having tried so many workarounds but is still not able to get the output you want? If you're using ChatGPT extensively for your work or your business, then this video is for you. Hi, my name is Sunny and welcome to my very first video on prompt engineering. This will be a two-part series where in this first video, I'll run through the basics of prompting and share some tips that can enhance your prompts, taking it to the next level. And in part 2, I'll touch more on the advanced prompting strategies that will probably be on another video. Also, do stick with me to the end of this video as I'll share a free prompting tool that can supercharge your prompts in no time. So, for those of you who don't know what prompt engineering is, it's basically about optimizing your text input for generative AI such as ChatGPT to produce a desirable output. And with the rise of generative AI today, I feel it is critical to know how to prompt in order to generate the best results, regardless if it's for your work, for your own business, or just to simply increase your productivity. Now, I don't claim to be an expert, so please feel free to comment down in the comment section below if I missed out on any good points. This way, we can start to learn from one another. Also, if you're new to AI, don't worry because I've got you covered as well. Maybe let's quickly just run over some of the very basics to get you up to speed. Of course, if you already know the basics, please feel free to skip on ahead. But if you're new to AI, let's maybe start off with a very simple basic question. What the heck is generative AI and how does it even work? Well, basically, generative AI uses large language models that are trained on huge data sets to understand natural language. Hence, they're able to provide a variety of tasks, such as answering questions, performing translations, solving problems, and many, many more. One example of such AI is obviously ChatGPT, which you have probably heard of or are already using as we speak. Now, to keep things simple, you can think of ChatGPT models as a massive, precise, autocomplete program that predicts the next word in a sentence based on the words it has already seen. These words that we are talking about are what we like to call a text input or a prompt, which is the actual official name. Now, these prompts are based on the logic of GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, which is a very basic principle that you will come across in computer science. This is just simply means that if your prompts are vague, your output generated by the AI will likely be vague too, which is why prompt engineering is critical if you want to unlock an AI's fullest potential. So with the theory of the way, let's move on to our next couple of sections where we will run some experiments and examples. I will also be covering basic textbook prompts as fundamentals of prompting. Then we will explore in detail the ideal prompt structure that will take your prompts to the next level. And lastly, of course, I will not forget, I'll be sharing the secret tool that I've been using to further supercharge my prompts. Without further ado, let's hop over to my workstation to get started. When it comes to prompting, it is good to know their fundamentals, and there are different types of basic prompts. So the first basic prompt that we're going to cover is known as a zero-shot prompt. So zero-shot prompt is getting the AI model to perform a specific task or provide information without any explicit training on that task. To better illustrate this, let me explain zero-shot prompt in an analogy. Imagine you have a super smart robot friend who loves to read. This robot has read so many books, articles, and stories that it knows a lot about the world. Now, you can ask this robot friend questions or ask it to do tasks for you. A zero-shot prompt is like asking your robot friend a question it has never heard of before. But because it has read so much, it can still give you a good answer. For example, if you ask your robot friend, is the sentence, "I love ice cream" a happy sentence or a sad sentence? Even though you have never asked this exact question before, your robot friend can still answer it's a happy sentence because it understands what happy means and it knows that loving ice cream is usually a happy thing. In this analogy, your robot friend is the language model and the happy or sad question is the prompt. The answer, yes, it's a happy sentence from your robot friend is the output. Just like how your robot friend will able to answer a question he has never heard of before, a language model can generate a relevant output based on the prompt it has not seen before. This is what we call a zero-shot prompt. Now that you know zero-shot prompt and what it means, let's maybe run through an example. Translate "How are you doing" in Chinese. Okay, and it tells me the Chinese word for "how are you doing." So this is pretty accurate, right? So basically, I'm not giving it any training or anything or any examples, right? And it's still able to do it. So it's just basically getting ChatGPT to base off whatever knowledge or information that they have to provide me with the output. All right, so let's try with another example. What is the capital of Brazil. So the capital of Brazil is Brasilia. So you see, again, I'm not giving it any examples. It's just using whatever they have, whatever that they are being trained on to give me the answer. So you're just simply using its autocomplete prediction mode that they are trained on, right, to respond. Okay, so that's just simply it for zero-shot prompt. Okay, so the second prompt that we are going to move on to is known as a single shot or a few shot prompt. So here you provide a limited amount of information to the GPT model about the task, or just provide it some additional examples and context, right? This helps the model to better perform by giving a bit of guidance. So let's use an analogy to quickly illustrate this. Imagine you are trying to teach a young child to identify animals. If you show them a picture of a dog and say this is a dog, that's like a one-shot learning. You have given them one example and they might be able to recognize other dogs based on that one example. Now let's say you want to teach the child to identify not just dogs but all pets. You could show them a picture of a dog and say, this is a pet. Then show them a picture of a cat and say, this is also a pet. And then maybe show them a picture of a fish and say, this is another type of pet. So you have given them a few examples or shots to help them understand the broader category of pets. So this is like a few shot learning. In the context of AI, a prompt is a question or command you give to the AI. If you give the AI several examples of how to respond to a certain type of prompt, like identify the pets in the analogy, that is called a few shot prompting. So in this case here, I have a question and answer about dog. I've laid it out in the question and answer format. So the first one is what is the average lifespan of the Labrador Retriever, right? And it gives me the answer, and I put the answer over here. So if I carry on and I say, give me another question and answer, and I click submit, it will, based on the first format and also the question about to generate the output, right? So in this case, this is an example of a single shot prompt because I'm only giving it one example. Or a few shot prompt would be something like that where I have more than one examples. All I need to do is just to type a Q and they might probably just give me whatever that I want. Okay, so there you have it. Although there's a spelling error here, but it's still pretty accurate in terms of coming up with the question and the answers. So in this case, because the first two examples are also on Labradors, hence the third one will likely be on Labradors as well. So that's about it. It's just so straightforward. A single shot or a few shot prompt just means that you provide it with examples on exactly what you want. Better, stronger use case would be, let's say if you like a particular YouTube short video, right? So you could actually simply just transcribe it or take out their transcript, right? And just use them as examples, right? So if I visit a YouTube channel, let's say example, I like this particular video over here.
Iconic.
Okay, let's say I like this video over here, right? So all I need to do is just to copy its URL out and go over here, go to transcript. I can actually copy it out. So this is an extension that I'm using. I'll just put it the extension in the description below so that you can use it as well. Basically, it just gives me the transcription of the entire script that this video is about, right? So I'm just going to copy this whole thing and I'm going to paste it into like a document or somewhere else. So I have over here 3 different examples from that video, from this video creator over here, right? So in this case, let me just toggle over the chat mode and I'm just going to put it here. Okay. So as you can see, I have 3 examples of the transcript that I've taken from 3 of their videos. So I can do something like, based on the examples given, okay, based on the example given, create a script for less than a 1 minute video about Barack Obama in the same tone, style, and storytelling. So if I do it this way, it will give me a script that is really very close to whatever examples that I've given to them. So this is a few shot prompting because I've given them more than one example. And if you read carefully, there are some instances like, you know, get ready to hear some mind-blowing and absolute crazy facts about the president that you might think you know. But trust me, Barack Obama is full of surprises. So again, it's the type of storytelling that they have. It will mimic whatever that examples that you have already posted in the system box over here. Okay, so that's just an example of a few shot or double shot prompt. Next, we move on to role prompting. Now, I do find that role prompting is really effective as it is getting the model to assume a role. With a specific role, they are able to provide answers that are more semantically relevant to that role, hence making the output more reliable. So in this case, we're going to do something simple, right? We're just going to get the GPT model to calculate something. So I've got this example from learnprompting.org. I'll put the link again in the description below, and you can go try it out yourself. Right, so in this example, I'm just getting it to calculate this mathematical calculation, and let's see what it gives us, right? So 112, which is the wrong answer, because in this case, there are no brackets or anything. So you, and of course, multiplication and division are on the same level. Hence, you should be calculating this from left to right, right? And in this case, 112 is the wrong answer. Okay, so in the experiment, what we're going to do is we're going to give it a row, right? We're going to give it a row of something like that. Okay, and we are just going to run it. Okay, so you can see here that the answer is 1400, which is correct, right? And that is also because gave it a new role, which is getting it to assume the role of a brilliant mathematician, and it can solve any problems in the world, right? So based on that, it's now it knows that this is a mathematical calculation, hence it's calculating the correct way. So you see how, you know, a small little tweak like that by adding in a row would actually change the outcome or the output, right? So row prompting is really effective in this way, which I think everyone should always have a persona or a role given to the AI in order to generate a more desirable output. Alright, next we move on to chain of thought prompting. Basically, with chain of thought prompting, it's where you guide the conversation by specifying a sequence of instructions or steps for the AI model to follow. It's like giving it a set of rules to adhere to throughout the conversation, ensuring a coherent and structured exchange. So in this example, we will be using one from promptingguide.ai. So I have here is in the format of a question and answer, which is somewhat like a single shot prompt, right? So we have a first question followed by a first answer, and we have a second question, and we expect the AI to answer the second question. So in this case, the first question goes something like, Roger has 5 tennis balls, he buys 2 more cans of tennis balls, each can has 3 tennis balls. How many balls does he have now? And the answer is 11. So the second question is something more tricky. It says here the juggler can juggle 16 balls, right? Half of the balls are golf balls. Another half of the golf balls are blue. So how many blue golf balls are there? So let's see if the AI is able to solve this problem. Okay, so the AI says here that it has 8 blue golf balls, which is wrong because there should only be 4 since only half of the 8 golf balls are blue. So in this case, how we can use the chain of thought prompting to solve this question, right, is by making sure that the answer is broken down into steps, right? As long as we break down the answer into steps, we'll be able to solve this question. So let's try it out with this new format of answer. So what's the difference? It's just that we broke down the answer for the first question into steps. Okay, so in this case, Roger started with 5 balls, 2 cans of 3 tennis balls, each is 6 tennis balls. 5 plus 6 is 11, and the answer is 11. So let's try this out. Okay, so now the answer is a juggler can juggle 16 balls. Out of these 16 balls, half are golf balls, which is 8 golf balls, right? Out of 8 of the golf balls, half are blue, which is 4 blue golf balls. Hence, the answer is 4 blue golf balls, which is the correct answer. So once again, you see how a little tweak here by changing the answer into something that's more of a step-by-step would be able to help the AI model to solve a little bit more tricky questions. Right, so another way to do this chain of thought prompting is through a zero-shot type, where we just need to get the AI model to break it down step by step. So this is a very powerful keyword, right? It's getting the AI model to break down the answer step by step. So by running this, let's see what happens. Okay, so as you can see here, what happened is the first prompt generate the first step. So the first prompt here is the question and breaking it down step by step, right? So it generates the first step. And then based on the first prompt and the context from both the first step and the question, it creates the second step here. And then the third step actually takes context of the second step, the first step, and the question that derives at the answer. So hence, you're able to see that, you know, we are using a step-by-step to break down the question so that it's able to derive at the correct answer. So essentially, it's getting the GPT model to use its own thought process as context, which is also why the potential of AI is so mind-blowing, right? Imagine if you can get it to self-prompt and it can literally just think of its own. And this already has been tested using what we call an autonomous AI agents. So if you want to find out more about autonomous AI agents, do stay tuned on my channel as I'm currently running some experiments on this as well. So circling back to chain of thought prompting is a really good way to solve problems, but there are actually more advanced prompting methods that can take problem solving to the next level. And one of such prompting methods are the tree of thought, or where you get the AI model to sort of think of more steps and then look back to evaluate their decisions and make choices based on their own generation. So essentially, you can get it to assume roles like a psychiatrist and then get it to give you relationship advice, right? There's also a priming method to prime AI models with a series of conversations to train them with certain best practices of guidelines. So once they're trained on it, you can actually use them to evaluate and generate new output based on top of those guidelines. And of course, lastly, we are also able to get GPT models to reverse prompt engineer, right? To get prompts out from GPT that can really save you a lot of time thinking about prompts. So I won't touch on this much today, as I'll cover that on the part 2 video. So do stay tuned for that next video, and hence remember to subscribe and like to get notified of these updates. So with chain of thought out of the way, let's move on to our second section, which is on the ideal prompt structure. A basic prompt structure usually consists of 2 parts: an action or a task followed by some additional context. And most people usually just stop there, hoping to get the answers they want. If the answers given by the AI model is not satisfactory, they will follow up with another prompt, rinse and repeat. Now, there are no right or wrong way with this method, as it is one way of priming GPT models. But if you're using a paid version of AI models, or you're expecting your generation to be huge, remember that there are always token limits. So this way of prompting may not be sustainable for a larger generation of text. As for me, after experimenting on so many prompts, I like to think that there is no one way or holy grail in prompting. But there are elements in prompting that can make your outcome more desirable. And here are some tips to do that. Okay, starting off with tip number 1, having a very clear and defined end goal in mind. With a clearly defined end goal, you will be able to reverse engineer what is required to fulfill that goal. Your thought process of prompting should always start from an end goal and go backwards from there. For example, you want to run some internal data to generate a report. Then the next question you might want to ask yourself is, what is that report for? Is it for quarterly sales analysis? Is it for competitive analysis? Are there any example reports you'd like the AI to follow? If you don't know, then your prompt will be to get the AI model to give you some best examples on what to report on. So in this case, you might want to then provide an overarching context of your business, followed by getting it to generate ideas on reporting. So you see, now having the end goal in mind and slowly work your way backwards will provide you more clarity for yourself to create prompts. Tip number 2, use examples to prime GPT models. Now, it might sound simple, but this is an absolute game changer. You can literally become another person using AI by providing enough examples of a person's speech or writings. In our reporting example above, if you have your hands on reports from huge Fortune 500 companies, you can literally use plugins to analyze them, replicate their reporting style and tonality onto yours. If you don't have examples, there are 2 other ways to provide AI more directions, which brings us to tip number 3. Provide a target audience or persona. Just like getting the AI model to assume a role, providing a target audience will give a lot of context to the AI model based on their understanding of this audience. For example, write an email to a target audience of dog lovers versus working moms, or a new pitch to a new client would give you very different results. But it should not stop there. Describing these audiences in detail could make a stronger impact in generating a better crafted output. For example, you are writing to your manager describing his or her personality. Your manager could be someone who is meticulous in numbers, or someone who has low tolerance in mistakes. Or if you are sending it to your new client, what industry are they from? What do they specialize in? So all these will enable the AI to generate something closer to your audience. Note that this target audience can also be yourself or third party, such as explain this book to high school students, or explain it to a 5th grader, or explain this to a complete beginner. All these are examples of personas. Use a specific tone or style. You could also use names of famous people to tweak your style. For example, write a chairman's letter for your company's annual report in the style of Warren Buffett. Do take note that since GPT data cutoff is 2021, so it means if the person only got famous after, it will be safer to provide examples of this person's exact writings or speech in text. Apart from that, you could also set a tonality for AI models as well. For example, write an email to your potential prospect in a persuasive tone. Tip number 5, getting GPT to provide suggestion, ideas or examples that you can use for context if you ever run out of ideas or if you do not have any examples to use within your context. And here's an example of how you can do it. You're an AI that helps prompt beginners. Generate 5 prompts for the GPT 3.5 model. The prompts should be about creating ideas for context to be used in the prompt to generate an annual report. Let's see what happens. So as you can see, they have generated 5 different examples of prompt ideas, right? So they even give you a persona for each and every one of these 5 prompts, right? So as you can see, the first one is, as the CEO of a renewable energy company, write an annual report highlighting the company's accomplishments and the impact on the environment. Include details on key projects, energy production, statistics, and plans for future growth. So you can see that, based on the prompt, you're actually getting ideas to generate more prompts. So, feel free to keep modifying this and keep running this, right? And get even more examples from ChatGPT. So we can actually take one more step further by priming the model with even more context. And here's a prompt that I've improved on. So we're going to open a new chat and we're going to run this new prompt. Okay, so it goes something like, you're an AI that helps beginners at prompting generate 5 ideas to be used as the context within a prompt to generate an annual report. This report is meant for higher management that emphasizes on ROI and innovation. The report should be in the style of Berkshire Hathaway's annual report. And let's try and run this. Okay, so it has broken it down to, again, 5 points, and then let's just take a look at the first one, which is idea is revolutionizing industries through innovation, unveiling the ROI of groundbreaking ventures. So the context is, our annual report highlights the exceptional returns on investments achieved through our innovative endeavors across various industries. We showcase how our forward-thinking strategies have disrupted traditional markets and positioned us as an industry leader. Okay, so I think this is pretty good as compared to the one before. I don't know about you, but the context here is much more organized and it have a lot of keywords that would be able to draw more meaning to the AI, right? So for example, in this case, cultivating a culture of innovation, unleashing the power of ROI in an era of change. So over here is just the idea. It looks small, like something like a headline, but the actual thing that we want is the context, right? So we can actually use the context, something like, our annual report focuses on symbiotic relationship between innovation and ROI within our organization. We delve into our commitments to fostering a culture that nurtures groundbreaking ideas and showcase how this approach has yielded substantial returns over an ever-evolving business landscape. Okay, so as you are building up your prompt to create the annual report, you could actually use some of these ideas here as part of your context to generate the annual report that you want. So you can just keep modifying and go along with this and get more context, more examples from ChatGPT itself. Okay, so let's put it all together. I think the ideal prompt, in my opinion, should always have these 4 elements. So it starts off with a task or an action. So task or an action is something that you will not run away from. Every single prompt would obviously have a task and an action. So this is like a prerequisite, right? So we move on to our second element, which is defining a role or persona. So in the earlier examples of role prompting, you can see how a small little tweak can actually change the output entirely, right? So hence, providing a role or persona for the AI to assume is really a very powerful way to get it to create the content or to create the output that is semantically relevant to whatever that you want, right? So make sure you always define a role for the AI. All right, and then we move on to the third element, which is context. In terms of context, you will want to start thinking of ideas, right? And how to do that, you can actually do it by using this framework of who, what, where, when, and how. So you can think from this point of view, try to answer some of these questions, right, in your context. So for example, who could be your target audience, right? So by specifying your target audience, it can also determine the output, or it can also create an output that's more accurately linked to your target audience. And then of course, we move on to the fourth element, which is guidelines. So guidelines is just basically setting a style, a certain tone, or use a certain format. Or better still, if you have examples, that would be the best, because using real life examples, realistic examples can actually get the AI to mimic that person's tone of voice, can mimic that person's style, and so on, right? So giving examples will be the best way forward for guidelines. Okay, so here's an example that I have put together with all these 4 prompt elements within, right? So let's just quickly break it down. Okay, so first we specify a persona that you want the AI to assume, and that would be in this case, it will be the car salesman, the top car salesman. Right, then your task is to generate an email with the context of writing to a high net worth client as your target audience. And of course, we also further enhance on that context of our target audience, right? And I actually put something like, your existing client is a high net worth. To him, money is never an issue, but experience does. So if you have additional context of whoever they are writing to, it will help the AI to create something that is more appealing to your audience, right? Especially if you know that person very well, you're able to get the AI to draft a copy that is more appealing to this person. And then, of course, in terms of guidelines, you want the AI to write in the style of Grant Cardone, who is one of the top salesmen in the real estate industry, right? So that's all for the example. Let's try to run it in ChatGPT, right? So we'll open up a new chat using ChatGPT 3.5, and I'm just going to run this. Okay, so from here we can see that this email is rather long. I'm hoping that the AI is actually is smart enough to know that a pitch should be shorter, but I guess we didn't prime it enough. So a simple tweak like getting it to write a short email pitch could change the outcome. But in this case, let's just go with this. I do see that this email, because of some of this additional context that I've put in, right? Like money is never an issue, but experience does, right? So you will find that the AI is writing in a way that will try to get the reader to imagine or to picture himself, right? So in this case, as you can see here, picture yourself ensconced in the plush embrace of sumptuous leather, right? So they actually go into more of the experience factor, which I've already specified in the prompt above, right? So you can see how that actually sets a different direction where the copy actually brings the user into. It's very different here. Of course, we can also try running this prompt with GPT-4 and we can see whether, is it a lot better as well. Yeah, so once again, it says here, imagine sitting in a car. So it's a lot of using that context that we have put in, right? So it's like getting the user to focus more on the experience side of things. So obviously, if you change that messaging a little bit in the prompt by saying that the client of yours actually focus more on price, then the whole outcome of the message will be very, very different, right? So obviously, this copy, I wouldn't really say that it's very much different from the previous one. Although they do use a lot more descriptive words to describe the car and also a lot more words that able to paint you a picture, right? So like for example, the first moment you lay eyes on this Marvel, so it's really very catered to the experience. However, I don't think this is any much, I would say it's a slight improvement from the 3.5 one, but I wouldn't say this is very much accurately written by Grant Cardone because I don't really know how Grant Cardone will write an email. So of course, that will bring us to our next other video where I will actually share more information on priming, right? So we can actually do a series of priming in order to help the AI achieve what we really want, which is, providing them with more examples. Okay, so that said, this is the end of our experiments. I hope the tips help you. Of course, let me know in the comment section as well. So before we end off, I did promise to share a tool that can help you drastically improve your prompts. So that's none other than Prompt Perfect. Let's just go right into it, right? So promptperfect.gina.ai. So this is the one that you want to go into, all right? So let me just click this away. Okay, so basically Prompt Perfect is an AI that generates prompt for generative AI like ChatGPT, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and so on. So it does have different modes over here. There are text mode. So you have the GPT 3.5, the GPT-4, Stable LM, which is more of an open source model, right? So there are text models. There's also image models like your DALL-E, which is by OpenAI, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and so on. So it is an AI on top of an AI. It's basically to help you to draft better prompts. So all you need to do is just to provide a first drafted prompt and key it inside here, right? And it will actually beef it up for you. So it's like a add-on booster for your car, right? Or it just pimps up your car even stronger. Right, so this post, obviously I'm not getting paid by them or anything. This is not sponsored. I'm just sharing this too because this is really game changing. All right, so all you need to do is just to draft your own prompt and then put it in like what you will do in ChatGPT, right? But before you enter into ChatGPT, just run it across Prompt Perfect over here so that it can perfect your prompt. And the best part is it creates more level of context for you. It also rephrases your prompts to make it clearer and more complete. And they even provide styles from renowned people whenever necessary, right? So just like this example here, right? So I actually ran a prompt, right? So the original prompt goes something like that. Rebrand McDonald's logo as a vegan, use similar styles as famous logo designers. So I just did a prompt that is about this couple of words here, 16 words or something, right? A very short prompt. Okay, and it gives me 77 words, right? So it spits out something like that. So rebrand McDonald's logo as a vegan with a minimalistic, sleek, and modern aesthetic. Right, similar to the style of graphic designers from Paula Scher, Mikhail Beirut, and David Carsons. Now, I don't really know how to pronounce their names, but I think they are really popular, really famous designers. So incorporate green and earthy tones and use a plant-based imagery to represent the brand's value and identity. So you see how they actually pimp my original prompt into something that is way more context. They even provided designers' names, right? And they even tell us how should we represent the brand value. So with Prompt Perfect, right, there are a couple of things that you need to take note of. Okay, so this tool itself, it is a paid tool. You would have to buy credits for it. Okay, so you can actually buy additional credits. However, upon signing up, right, you are given, if I'm not wrong, 25 free credits. In the past, you can actually create like many emails and you can just re-log in and re-sign in again. So you can create a new account over and over again with new emails. Now, today, I don't know if that still works, but in fact, you actually don't even need that anymore because by logging in every day, like what you see earlier on, it gives me a free credit. So that's how you can actually work around getting it to run free for you. Okay. Also, one more thing is there are settings here that is turned on by default. And these are things that you probably will not need to use at all if you really want to just run or just want to beef up your prompts, right? So the first one is this before and after preview. It is always being switched on by default. You can turn it off. It's just basically like the example here, it just tells you what's your original and what's your optimized prompt, right? There's a before and after preview. And then there is also a variable substitution over here. This is something where probably if you were trying to create prompt templates, you can substitute the words within the curly brackets, right, with a variable. If you're prompting long enough, you might come across such prompts where they substitute words within the variables of a prompt, right? So you can turn it off as well if you're not doing any prompt templates, right? So under language, there's also this option called always optimize to English. So sometimes they might just change your prompt into some other languages, right? But instead, this thing will just tell them that always optimize my prompt and give it back to me in English, right? So you can turn it off, you can turn it on, it's up to you, but I will usually just turn it off as well. And then, of course, I key in my prompt over here, and I select the models that I want. So if it's 3.5, I choose this, right? If it's GPT-4, then I select this. So you mouse over this little aeroplane icon and over here, it will tell you how many credits you have used, right? So that's basically it, right? There's nothing fanciful about the other settings. Okay, so Prompt Perfect is actually free as well if you're using GPT-4. So if you go to new chat and GPT-4 and if you go to plugins, they do have a Prompt Perfect here as well. So I'm not very sure if this Prompt Perfect is the same Prompt Perfect as that particular website, right? But of course, using these, you will need to pay for the GPT-4, the GPT Plus, which is the premium version of ChatGPT, right? But of course, the plugin is free of charge. Okay, so just turn off those settings that you do not use and you can save on the credits. So that's all for today. Do subscribe and thumbs up if you find this video useful. In the next video, are we doing more advanced prompting such as priming? We will be running a lot of experiments on Tree of Thought prompting framework that can be used to solve more complex problems. And also, we will try out a lot of reverse engineering to create prompt templates so that we can get ChatGPT to create prompts for us. So stay tuned for that and stay safe.